Welcome to the Emerging Lawyer series at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum, TIF, and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is from cap tables to courtrooms, the legal mind. We're with us, Clarence Anthony, founder, Clarence and Partners. With a stellar career that spans over 18 years, Clarence has not only steered major deals and fund advisory mandates, but also helped build legally sound enterprises across sectors like tech, pharma, education, and real estate. From leading legal teams at top tier firms to now building his own venture law firm, Clarence and Partners, his journey reflects courage, clarity, and strategic depth. So grab your coffee. This one's for the rainmakers and risk takers. So welcome, Clarence, to today's coffee conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So let me explain you. There are three rounds we have shared with you, but I'll just make you go through. Professional journey, personal, and you will be in the hot seat, the rapid fire round. So that is a surprise which they don't know. And here's a gift, Legal AI 101, which you can go through. And if you feel your law firm needs, we are there through Prime Infotech Solution.
Perfect.
So friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation and legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. So my first question, Clarence, how has your journey shaped up and what were the key defining moments you had?
That's actually a good question. I think professional journey, uh, I think uh, certainly my first job, um, I got into a law firm in Bombay, which is, still a pretty prominent law firm. But got in there at the ground floor, there were still, only 20 odd people. Uh, and at that time, the law firm business was just beginning to grow. And the largest law firms were like 150 people. And, that time the learning experience, the exposure, the transition from, reading from books and, learning and doing research on Manupatra was still new. I think that was certainly a defining moment. Second one was probably, clearing my Bombay solicitor's exam and then shifting to trilegal. It also involved moving cities, of course, facing a new challenge, different practice area, larger firm, a whole bunch of new things to learn. Um, and I think that journey was very, very interesting. Spent about 8 years in Delhi and Gurgaon, and then spent another, well, 6 in Bangalore with them. So that was a long journey. Um, and was fortunate enough to work with some really nice people and some really robust practice areas, which I think more than anything else enriched the experience palette. And yeah, I guess after leaving Trilegal, starting my own firm was the next sort of big milestone. So that's really where I mean that's the answer to your question, I guess.
Wow. So let's dive deep into the conversation. Clarence, you have advised both founders and investors. How do you stay neutral yet strategic in high stakes negotiations?
Good question. I mean, I guess it boils down to what it means to be a lawyer, right? Ultimately, you need to understand both sides. I often think my job is less about, pushing my own client's agenda, and more about finding a way for parties to agree and, sort of move on with their deals. I don't specialize in litigation. So often my job is not a zero-sum game. The idea is to end up with an accretive outcome for everybody. And often that is the case. It's very often that people will be speaking the same language, but they won't understand each other, and it's your job to sort of bridge that gap. Um, so I actually think my job, you know, like any new lawyer, was about trying to win an argument, and as an experienced lawyer now, I think my job is more about helping people reach consensus and helping leverage the experience to find solutions.
Wow. Okay. So, in your experience, Clarence, what's the most underrated aspect of legal due diligence during funding rounds?
most underrated aspect of legal due diligence. Where do I start? Um, I think I think honestly the most underrated part of due diligence is actually understanding what the company does. And I've seen this is a recurring theme that lawyers understand legal compliance, but if you don't understand the context of the business, it is always half-baked. So my simple answer to that question is, you know, lack of understanding of the business, its drivers, its motivations, the founders' motivations. Those are according to me the critical parts of the legal due diligence. Everything else, once you have that, your expertise, your competence, right, all of that will address. But if you're not looking at things from the right lens, no amount of diligence and perseverance with reviewing documents is going to get you to the right outcome.
Hmm. So, Clarence, how do you balance legal compliance with commercial sensibilities, especially in fast-paced startup environments?
I think it boils down to experience, nothing else, right? There's always a legal way to do things. There's always a way to fit your idea within the contours of the law. The law is not, inflexible. Yes, I mean, if you want to do something that involves like money laundering or something, of course that's illegal. But there are many sectors that, may perceptibly seem gray, but actually are actually completely permissible if done the right way. And I think that sort of fits with the way our legal system works. People, if you keep the broader perspective in mind of what your business is supposed to do, how is it to be run responsibly? How would a government official looking at your business view it as being a responsible business? If you can keep those broader perspectives in mind, you can certainly find a way to, find good, efficient, legally compliant, robust solutions, including in the fast-paced startup space. And I want to emphasize that there is no substitute for doing things the right way, right? If you cut corners in the beginning, it's going to catch up to you later. And at that point, you could be looking at an exponential loss in valuation because of cutting those corners. So if you spend the extra time, take the extra effort, maybe lose some edge as a result of trying to comply with the law. In the long term, it is certainly going to be better.
Yeah. So, Clarence, what advice would you give to early stage founders about structuring their cap tables?
Don't fill up your cap table with silent, non-participative money. Just because you're a founder and you want to do a friends and family round, don't go out and get small ticket investments from hundreds of people or even tens of people, because those people are going to contribute once. It's unlikely they will keep contributing to your company. And as your business grows, they will actually become a dead weight on your cap table, because investors will need them to sign every shareholders agreement that replaces the previous one. Their consent will be required for changing articles potentially. Effectively, you will have to coordinate with too many people to get stuff done. And actually, I'm seeing this on many of the companies I advise. And many companies
Mm.
are now, adopting innovative solutions like moving them into a private trust to have a common representative and a single person on the cap table, or putting in a decent sort of shareholder representative construct. Again, to ensure that we don't need to go to 30 people in addition to the investors, in addition to institutional investors, to get consent to do basic things. So that would be my advice to founders when working on their cap table.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, because there are many, eh, uh, what do you say, early stage investment companies or associations like SL Angel and all those, they keep having this pitch rounds, going for smaller funds, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, as you said, and learning through coffee, as you said correctly, by dealing with hundreds of, what do you say, uh, investors, and there will be like a potential big investors who will then shy away. They wouldn't prefer your looking at so many shareholders in the company, and you will miss that big ticket investment. So thanks for this. So I also learned by I was thinking of doing getting investors for this SL Angels and others, but now not advisable.
Yeah.
Because see, you never know your money also. What will happen to your 5 lakhs?
No, no, of course, of course. You are you are you are sort of set up to create uncertainty in the future. So if you want to get small ticket investors, get them through a fund that puts a larger check and it's one person on your cap table. Don't get, 20 people putting 5 lakhs in your company, because if your company is not going to grow, it's okay. But if your company is going to grow and you're going to get more rounds of investment, and you want to create ESOP pools, you want to, potentially do an M&A deal in the future, all of this becomes very complicated.
Wow. Okay. So, Clarence, what's your approach when consulting on special situations or legal firefighting?
I've had lots of those. Um, it's fascinating how these special situations or firefighting crop up. Often it's the most innocuous thing. You know, an incorrect statement made at a board meeting. you know, a bet on a business vertical that was sort of a to some extent a hobby project, but has now become a pain point for the company. Uh, a founder that has lost interest in the business, wants to go elsewhere. We've seen lots of these situations, right? And
Yeah.
it is not easy. There are no magic bullets, right? There is no I'll call the lawyer and tell them solve my problems and they'll magically make the problems go away. It's not. It is often painful. It is often arduous. It often takes lots of time. Um and inevitably, it at some point or the other leads to a settlement. But you still have to go through the entire process of demonstrating your willingness to go the whole way in the event the settlement is not reached. But I think, see, my advice to anyone who's getting into those sorts of situations, and no two situations are alike, no two sizes of entities are alike. So the answer to an early stage founder and the answer to a large conglomerate getting into those situations is vastly different, right? um, my answer in most of those situations is, first, step back and look at it objectively. What do you really want from a purely objective, non-emotional sort of point of view? And maybe it involves waiting 24 hours and then deciding what to do, right? The second is, there is no substitute for process. Follow detailed, regimented, you know, auditable process from that point onwards. Information recording is key, right? Uh, if you have to signal your intent, use your lawyers to do it. Don't do it yourself, because you can expect them to be, shall I say, extremely pithy and professional in their communication, right? And they will avoid saying anything that could potentially come back to bite you, because literally that's what their job is. Um, and don't add too many players into the mix. So if you're trying to, solve a difficult situation, keep the circle tight. The minute you add, too many advisors, too many lawyers, all in the mix, maybe it's possible to work in some situations, but odds are it won't. Uh, so those would be my main takeaways in this sort of situation.
So, having worked across tech, pharma, real estate, education, how do you adapt legal strategies to suit each sector?
It's odd, but beyond a point, many legal concepts are consistent across sectors. They may look like they're doing very different things, and their application may be different for different sectors, but the concepts are vastly the same, right? So I think the most important thing that a lawyer needs to have is strong baseline of knowledge and a strong grounding on how to adapt that baseline of knowledge to various sectors, which also goes back to the earlier point I made about due diligence, right? You need to understand what you're dealing with from a business perspective. Only then can you really use your baseline of knowledge effectively. If you, on the other hand, view it as, oh, a pharma business is so complete, is completely different from a real estate business, and all the concepts are different, then you might still get by, you might still be successful. But would you have, you know, enjoyed the perspective of using concepts of uh, one sector and another? Would you have enjoyed the idea of, finding a creative solution to a difficult problem? May not be. So I think working across sectors, doing different sorts of deals, debt, equity, derivatives, specific situations, settlements, all of that, it gives you a unique opportunity to use what you know. And I think that is the real, to some extent, joy in doing this.
Wow. So, Clarence, you have led legal mandates for large M&A deals and structured complex startups. What's been a challenging transaction you have worked on, and how did you navigate it?
Many of them. I mean, difficult to talk about specifics of transactions, even though they may be publicly available. So can't go into the specifics of any particular transaction, but we've seen lots of challenging situations. We've seen situations where the founder of the company is not sure they want to do a deal. So every time we go back, that's it. They've changed the goalposts, not just moved it, changed it. So today it was a share purchase deal. Tomorrow it's a business transfer. Third day it's an asset transfer. Fourth day it's a license, right? So you're constantly dealing with having to be able to adapt quickly to the needs of the hour. Founder wants to be a director. Founder wants to be a consultant, right? Then private equity buyer wants to buy from overseas. No, wants to buy from their India platform. No, wants to split it up and buy from both. Oh, they want to do a reverse flip into the US. All of these things keep happening, right? So we've seen the myriad of challenges that come up, especially when somebody's trying to do, very innovative things that may not be strictly within the realm of what is the straight and narrow, which is actually where most of the fun is, can get pretty complicated. Can't talk about any specific deal, but we've seen very complicated pharma acquisitions, some extremely complicated infrastructure joint ventures. Infrastructure being a very to some, I don't want to call it. I mean, it's a stable asset heavy business, but because there are so many dependencies on government, so many dependencies on land, so many unknowns, right? Or unknowables, until you've actually done the activity, you have to craft your deal in a manner that it is both protective for your client and yet flexible enough for those with the boots on the ground to get stuff done. So it's always this sort of achieving the right balance, especially when these sorts of deals come up.
Okay. So, from junior associate to founding your own firm, what's one mindset shift that helped you grow across each stage?
Mindset shift. I think classical mindset shift. If you are when you're an associate, you start off saying, "I'll work hard, and maybe I'll climb the ladder, and also I'll wait for my paycheck to keep growing every year, and also wait for the year-end bonus." Once you get to law firm partner, that mindset changes a little bit, because now you need to have a book that can pay for all these things. So you need to start viewing it as you have the ownership of that vertical. And once you become your own founder, right, there are many things that you need to view as, you need to understand the equity value of what you're building rather than just the cash flow value. And I think that is the major mind shift, which if you cannot make, it's very difficult to function, according to me, either as even a law firm partner or a for a founder. The minute you're able to view the equity value, you understand what it means to invest in the future. You understand what it means to, think about systems, processes, robustness, longevity, uh, which often you don't think of as an associate, right? Longevity there is just keeping your job. I think that is the big mindset shift that comes about.
Wow. So, Clarence, who has influenced you or has been a mentor from the legal world?
It's a good question. Lots of them, actually. Lots of them. And not everyone has been a super senior lawyer. I've the one thing that I've gathered is that you can learn from everybody. You just have to be willing to learn. I've had the privilege of working with some really good, law firm partners when I was coming up through Juriscorp. The amount of exposure they gave me, as a trainee, right, was, unbelievable. And I have to always thank them for that, because some of the grounding of legal knowledge that I got from there, very, very difficult to replicate. And then at Trilegal, I worked with some very good, I worked with one partner significantly, and then a bunch of other partners as well. Again, great legal knowledge, great ability to draft, taught me a lot about being able to be concise in your communication, and finding a way to get your point across without necessarily, overburdening the listener. And yes, most of that was tough, because none of these learning experiences are easy, but they sort of create a lasting impression on you and sort of mold the way you function. So yeah, and the other interesting thing is I've also had some very interesting peers to work with, some juniors to work with. I remember I have a peer who's, now a law firm partner in another big firm, who had this unbelievable ability to remember clause numbers and page numbers of an agreement. And I was like, that's impossible. How can anyone do that? But he could. It was surprising. And I've come across other folks who've had the ability to tie together concepts that seem completely disparate. And they were doing it at a much younger age. So it was admirable and also slightly threatening, actually, because I was like, wow, they can do it. If they can do this at this age, then what comes next? I think, yes, the overall sort of learning and admiration of, peers in the industry has been pretty widespread. I don't like taking names, but suffice to say the people who hear this will know who I'm talking about.
Wow. So now with AI everywhere, especially there are law firms who have made their tools. They've colleges also have tied up with equipping students with AI research tools like Jurisphere and others. Uh, how do you see AI impacting your work, and what future trends do you see especially in the Indian legal sector?
So let me start off by saying that we are actually an AI first law firm, which means that our core mission is to leverage AI to the greatest extent possible, not just to reduce cost, or not just to reduce dependency on humans, but to transform the quality of product, the accuracy of product, the thoughtfulness of product to a level that is difficult to achieve unless you have a large team of people functioning in absolute sync, right? To my mind, the cost of doing that using humans is exponentially high compared to doing it with AI. And the good thing about AI is persistent memory. It'll keep remembering, keep learning. And I've spent the last year, deeply invested in learning about AI, building with AI, building multi-agentic solutions using AI. And it's not just about hiring a developer. I've actually sat down and learned it myself. And I believe that as a lawyer, right, you do need to be able to be conversant with more than just interacting with the chat interface. Because if you don't appreciate the strength of what these things can do, you won't be able to, you won't be prepared to compete with them when they become your competition. So as a law firm, I think what we're doing is we are building tools that try to solve the same problem that I've described, which is bring error, inaccuracy, logical inconsistency, uh, uh, ambiguity down, maybe not to zero, but down to a significant level relative to what a team of human lawyers would do. And hopefully we'll succeed at it.
Wow. So my last question for your professional journey round, what advice would you give to young partners who want to transition to form their own law firms? Uh, I'm dividing in two parts. First part is the advice, and second part, what preparations he has to do for this transition for his law firm.
Um, it's a good question, actually. And there are so many answers to this. I think the first piece of advice will be spend some time assessing the enormity of the enterprise. It's not just about getting clients. You have to set up an enterprise. You have to set up a business. You have to understand that a business has many things that make it run. Clients are part of that. And clients are a very, very important part, because if you don't have clients, you don't have a business. But if you have clients and you don't have delivery, you can't do it. If you have clients and you don't have finance, you can't bill. If you have clients and you don't have administration, sales, and so on, you're not going to grow. So you need to sit down and think about the enormity of the task in front of you. And instead of getting overwhelmed by it, sit down and sort of assess it, speak to people, get a sense of what it really entails, and then steel yourself and jump. So in the beginning, it is a bit of a mad rush, just like any other business. You sleep very few hours and you'll work around the clock, but you will arrive at a stable state at some point. The other piece of advice would be have a vision. Don't set up a law firm just for the sake of setting up a law firm. Set up a law firm if you have a vision of how that law firm is key, it has a differentiator, and figure out if you have a business mode. You may not have a business mode. It's okay, but figure out if you can create one. And the third piece of advice is relationships. If you are able to maintain your relationships with clients, if you're able to get champions for you in the market, for you setting up and operating, then you're in good hands. Build those relationships, invest in those relationships, right? Find the champions who will support you when you break out. You don't need too many. You need a few people to support you, and your business will grow as long as you invest in it, right? And find people who will be collaborating, who will be good, suitable collaborators, right? Appreciate what you're lacking, where you lack in skill. You can't be everything, so appreciate what you cannot do. And if you can't learn it, and you don't find the time to do it, find the right people to collaborate with who are innately better at it, and let them do it. So my advice would be, don't start off saying I'm going to start a small business, because then you're just self-employing yourself. Start off saying I'm going to create a business that will make money when I sleep.
Wow. Beautiful advice. So all those young partners who want to transition to form their own law firm, law practice, watch the episode where Clarence has shared from his heart, because he's also started his own law firm. So he knows how he's gone through and what the ups and downs, and build up his Clarence and Partners. So this is what our coffee speakers bring to the table. So let's go to the next round and understand Clarence as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years.
So my family is me, my wife, and my daughter. My daughter's about 4 years old. My wife's also a co-founder of the law firm show as well. Um, my my folks are, in Bombay. I have a sister as well who's in media and entertainment, and yeah, and we're very close to my wife's family, to the family, and my daughter especially has the opportunity to interact with them very, very regularly, which is a good thing. Uh, so we're quite happy for that.
Wow. Okay. Uh, so let's go memory to your college days. Why did you
Hmm.
plan to go to government law college? What were your memories, experiences, and how did it help in shaping your career?
Okay. So I think I wanted to be a lawyer from the time I was in school. Um, and it wasn't a glamorous profession, at least where I grew up. The default was engineer and doctor. And it was almost like, well, why going down the lawyer route, especially when you can get into engineering college. Um, so I did 11th and 12th in Xavier's in Bombay. And again, I had the opportunity to go into engineering, but I said, no, let's do law. I see just by way of numbers, the number of people I have to is, a fraction of the number of people becoming engineers. So possibly, and this is a growing field, possibly there'll be an opportunity to rise quickly. So I did play the competition game a little bit, and also I generally liked law. So I got into it. Government law college actually was well, I got into a couple of law colleges. I picked government law college because it was in Bombay. Also, government law colleges allows you to start working sooner in life. So that was an upside. This college made some very good friends. Continued to have very robust network through that college. Lots of good experiences. Spent lots of time playing sport. Um, I think spent a lot of time learning outside of college as much as in college. Um, and I think the 5 years there, were pretty transformative. So that's my sort of takeaway from government law.
Wow. Okay. So who's your biggest cheerleader from your family and friends?
I suspect my wife. So she's been there, you know, from the beginning of me transitioning to trilegal, and she's been there through most of the challenging phase. First few years in trilegal, finding my feet, moving to a different city, all of that. So yeah, I mean, for sure, my biggest champion would be my wife. Of course, her parents are also very, very supportive. But I think she sees a lot of the challenges that I face far more than anyone else.
Wow. So what's one childhood memory that still makes you smile?
Childhood memory, I don't know, there are lots of them. Uh, uh, I think just enjoying myself playing sport. I mean, uh, I often look back at that and say, wow, I wish I could do that again. Right? Go play basketball in the middle of the afternoon for a few hours and not have to worry about the world. Right? We didn't have cell phones, so there was nobody calling us. There were no SMSs and WhatsApp messages and emails. It was just you lived in the moment when you had the opportunity to focus and devote yourself to the activity that you were engaged in, and also the people who were engaged in that activity with you. Often I mean, I missed some of that, and I don't think I can do it any longer.
Wow. Yes. Okay. So what's that hobby or ritual which helps you to unwind and recharge?
Coding. I think so. My wife's new my wife's view of my attempts at creating AI applications is that that's your new hobby. And truth be told, it's become a bit of a hobby. Um, So I mean, I play a couple of instruments and I like sport and so on. But I think the hobby that I've developed over the last year and a half is certainly spending time with technology and not only learning about it, but also implementing it. And I think it's genuinely developed into a real, like, time-consuming hobby for me.
Wow. So what's a family tradition which wherever you are in the world, you not miss it?
Family tradition. Uh, I don't think we have any of those. Um, I mean, I don't think I've ever missed my wife's birthday, so maybe that can count. We'd always do something on her birthday. But as far as like a genuine like tradition of sorts, I don't think we have one of those. I don't know if she gave you a different answer, but I don't think we have, a nailed down family tradition of sorts. It just sort of you sort of do it as you go, and chances are you'll keep recurring and doing the same thing or prioritizing the
Wow.
same thing.
So what is a book or movie which has left a lasting impact on you?
Oh, lots. I think books more than movies, um, and frankly, lots of books. So no single one of them, but there's lots of book. I mean, there are books all the way from politics and sociology, books that are autobiographies of you know major American figures, Indian figures, books on large financial institutions, government institutions, some fiction, then books on stuff like game theory, right? There's no, I cannot point to a single thing and say this is one thing that has significantly influenced the way I think. I think it's an amalgam of all the various things I read. Um, and I don't limit myself to one area of thought. I try to read about as many things as I possibly can, and all of that sort of contributes to my collective psyche.
Wow. So if your friends had to describe you in 3 words, what would it be?
Good question. I think they would probably say that unavailable is probably one of them because I'm perpetually unavailable. Um, but I think otherwise, in general, like laid back and calm. I am generally that sort of person, um, and also overall happy. I mean, I see no reason to not be happy in life. So if my friends had to describe me, that's probably what they would. Um,
Wow.
and also blunt, I guess. I think I'm a bit of a blunt instrument sometimes, especially with my friends.
Wow. So if you could teleport to any city in the world for a weekend with friends, where would you go and why?
Uh, so I'd probably make that family instead of friends. And if we could do it, we'd probably do so somewhere on the west, uh, the good food, go to the beaches. That's probably what we would do. Or Disneyland, and I can take my kid there. So, and that would probably be on top of my my wish list.
Wow. So what are your plans for 2025 personally and professionally?
Ah, 2025. My plan is health. Health for the business, health for myself. So um I think professionally I want the business to become healthy, become robust, create meaningful wealth for myself and for everybody who works for me. Uh, and personally, I need to become healthy. I think I've let myself go a little bit in the last year, a lot more healthy, because if I'm not able to engage with my daughter in the way that I'd like to, because I'm not fit enough, it would be a terrible outcome.
Wow. So my last one is a googly one. Describe Clarence in one line.
But that's not too difficult. Uh, I am a dreamer, and I think the day I stop dreaming is when I stop, being myself. And if I stop engaging and trying to live out so I am a dreamer, and that's how I would describe myself.
Wow. So let's put you in the hot seat, the rapid fire round. Founder stable or investor stable?
Investors.
Legal brief or brunch with friends?
Probably legal brief.
One food item you never resist.
One food item I never resist. Uh, I don't know. Anything with paneer in it, I guess.
A legal myth you'd love to bust in 3 words.
Legal myth I'd love to bust. For the most, I mean, you should not have guarantee agreements without consideration in them.
Your favorite color?
That's probably the legal.
Your dream travel place?
Red. I don't know. Now,
Okay.
these days, Disneyland, I guess.
Best piece of advice received?
Um, Play the long game, build for the future.
Wow. Okay. So since you're a Mumbaikar, so I'll ask you 2 questions from Mumbai. Best street food of Mumbai?
Ooh, I don't really like street food. So
Okay.
while I've had a lot of street food,
The best
I'm
food
not a
from
big fan
Mumbai?
though. But I guess, Muhammad Ali Road during Ramzan is probably great. I like doing that.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow. Okay.
go
Your
to the food shop and
favorite
have that
spot during your
at
college
night.
days to
Quite
relax?
nice.
Your favorite spot during college days to chill out?
Oh, sport was basketball.
Wow.
That was basketball. I
Okay.
played a lot of
So
basketball.
last one. Wow. Okay. So let me ask you, your favorite basketball player?
Ooh, Kobe.
Wow. Wow. So my last one, coffee order, strong, cold, or sweet?
Strong black
Wow.
coffee.
So let's restore. You did well.
Thank you so much.
Here's
It
your
was good.
book.
It was nice having
Let me
coffee with
complete.
you.
I've not completed. So here's a book. You did well, which will be autographed and sent to you. So, friends, it was a lovely conversation having with Clarence, who's transitioned uh, from being a partner at a leading law firm to having his own law firm. So, for all those legal professionals out there who want to start their own law firm, watch this episode and also understand M&A, startup advisory. So, this is an episode where Clarence has shared a lot of insights. And subscribe to the Coffee Corner Show, where there are 500 plus coffee speakers sharing their personal stories, professional stories. Watch them, get inspired, implement in your lives. And if you want to be featured like Clarence, visit our website, the Emerging India Forum, or a LinkedIn page, or connect with one of the coffee speakers who would put in a word to have coffee conversations. So take care. Thank you. Sweet.
Thank you.